Hi. Good. Mhm. Yeah, that'll be fine. I had the same thing happen with Reb when I did, SDGC, like, I just couldn't see her ever, and she couldn't see me, but it's fine. Mm, cool. You're all good. I know this stuff is, like, wonky as hell. Listen, the fact that you even do it is, like, commendable to me. I would never have the willpower to stream any of our podcasts. I'm just like, "Nope, audio is enough." Cool. Yeah, let me not be a dumb bitch and actually have Audacity open. Okay. Do you do like a clap or dope? Yeah, works for me. I am good. I mean, yep. Dope. I'm ready. Let's do it. Yeah. It's okay. I don't think I've ever been on a podcast where anybody has, like, confidently pronounced it, so you're really all good. You're very welcome. I've made it my life's mission to make every person I know play this fucking game, so yeah.
And I just realized for people streaming that I had muted my audio for the stream, so oh well. Guess that audio is just not going to be there for the stream, but it's going to be there for the podcast. So you should listen to both, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that just means consume both products.
Right, consume. Um, so who is this Caitlin person? Where do you come from? What's your deal? What brings you here?
Well, okay. That's always a fun question. So I run a website for video game criticism, I guess, and like just talking about games. It's called Uppercut. Um, we recently rebranded. We used to be called Your Kiki Gal Pal.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been doing that for a while. I have very cool people doing that with me, and we do like podcasts and stuff. And sometimes we write when we are up to it. And I also do some freelance games writing, which is how I met Jack. And yeah, that's the nutshell of it, I guess.
For sure. Yeah, so yeah, we met because we both kind of run in some similar circles of games writing and whatnot. So that being the case, it sounds like you might have been playing some games recently. Anything you want to talk about? Anything super interesting that's been on your mind other than Battle Chef Brigade?
My mind is always on Battleship Brigade. But let's see. I played Diablo 3 yesterday.
How
That
is
was
that game
fun.
still?
Sorry?
How is that game still?
It's fun. I played it a little bit when when it came out on the PS3. But I've never really played it with someone else before, but I was playing it with my friend Andrew. Shout out to him. And I was just driving him nuts by asking him very inane questions. Um, and it was fun. I dug it. I've never played as Demon Hunter before, but that's a fun class. And yeah, it was cool. And then, God, what else have I been playing? I've been playing an indie rhythm game called Songbird Symphony on my Switch, and
Ooh.
it's about very cute birds who sing and dance. And I don't know if it's a good rhythm game, but it's really cute. So
I mean, I feel like being really cute is a super important part of a rhythm game. Maybe?
yeah, I don't play like a ton of rhythm games. I've played like maybe three rhythm games in my whole life. So I don't know if I'm a good judge of it or not, but like it's really, really cute.
Isn't that like the whole appeal of like the I don't remember the actual name, but I'm just gonna say Hatsune Miku,
I think
the
so.
blue
I
haired
that's a part
anime
of
lady. I think.
Yeah, that's a part of the internet I don't actually fully understand. Um, but I think so.
Okay. Maybe. Who knows? I've never played any of those games.
Yeah, I
Um,
haven't either.
Game journalism. um, okay. So I, for my part, have not really been playing much different from last week. I've mostly just been playing Fire Emblem Three Houses and a sprinkling of Final Fantasy XIV, a little bit of this War of Mine, which is a very depressing game, and I just haven't had a real stomach for it the last week or so.
Yeah.
I would like to finish it, but yeah, it's just hard with everything going on in the world. I don't necessarily want to think about that. I don't want
Yep.
more awfulness taking up my brain, which is weird because it's also a very good game. Like, the game elements of it are very good, and I'm just kind of
Hmm.
like, it's difficult for me to like digest, I guess, in that sense. It doesn't feel like the kind of game that should be fun to play, but it is fun, but also very depressing. It's this weird dichotomy.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've heard that it's a lot. I haven't played those games, but I've heard that they're quite a lot to deal with.
Yeah, yeah. That a lot is a bit of an understatement. um, but yeah, so Battle Chef Brigade. You're gonna
Battle Chef
kind of take the
Brigade.
lead on this one because I feel like you know way more about it than I do. Basically, all I have to say is it was developed by Trinket Studios after a very successful Kickstarter campaign, and it released late in 2017, November 20th. And it's basically kind of like a match 3 game, except it's not match 3. I think it's match. Wait, is it a match? Yeah, it's match 3.
It's match three,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. But with cooking mechanics, and you have to like go out and hunt the monsters and prepare dishes, and there's all kinds of different combinations that will get you more points and help you defeat your opponent chefs.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like fantasy Studio Ghibli Iron Chef.
yeah, pretty much. So like, what? I guess why did you nominate this game? Like, what is so special about it?
I just think that it's always weird trying to explain this. I love it because it is like to me genuinely the closest thing to a perfect video game
Okay.
I think I've ever played. Like it's fun and um like the puzzle elements are interesting but not like they're not too hard. Like it's not it can be challenging to figure stuff out, but it's not, slamming your head against the wall or like having to look at walkthroughs or anything like that. And everything about it just feels like extremely positive and like wholesome and nice, and it's like just beautiful. The art is all great. The music is really, really nice. Um, yeah, I just apart from like some pacing issues in one of the chapters, I think it's pretty much just like I don't really have any like criticisms of it.
So like let's dig into that a little bit more. So like what makes it so nice? Because I'll agree, it's almost aggressively pleasant.
Yeah.
Um, and it's kind of hard to pin down why that is. Like there's I guess do you want to give kind of like an overview of the story?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
it's set in this like yeah, like this like fantasy world where for a long time there were just monsters everywhere, and people were like, "Oh, how do we deal with these monsters?" And then these chefs decided to start killing and cooking the monsters, And so they formed the Battleship Brigade. And so you play as this character named Mina Han, who's like this 21-year-old from this kind of small town. And her parents run a restaurant, so she's grown up cooking and all this stuff. And then she really, really wants to be in the Battleship Brigade. So she goes to the city to compete in the trials that they do to try to get a spot. And so you just kind of follow her as she like I don't know if people have seen Food Wars, but they do like
Yeah.
shokugekis basically. um or like food, like they like cook against other competitors, and you have to get like 8 wins, I think, to get a spot. And you can't lose more than like 3 times, I think. um and yeah, and so you just kind of follow Mina's journey to try to get into the Battleship Brigade. And then there's some stuff with like the monsters being poisonous. There's a whole mystery around that you end up having to try and figure out. And yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of realized this as you were talking, but it kind of operates on almost like that Yu-Gi-Oh logic, like or like any of those anime where there's like, obviously there are dire consequences for different outcomes, and like at one point in Battle Chef Brigade, like there's literally lives on the line of like this cooking competition, and but somehow it never, like, everyone can use like magic and is very proficient with knives, but instead of like killing each other, they settle their differences by cooking and having these cooking competitions, which is kind of again, like, in my mind I connect that to like Yu-Gi-Oh, or like
Yeah, I
any
can
of
see
those
that.
card battling things. And I think it just kind of, because all of the conflict resolution revolves around cooking, it makes the entire game way more pleasant. Because like, yeah, sure, you at one point you play as like an orc who has like berserker moves, but you don't use it to kill anybody. You use it to, I guess you use it to kill monsters, but
Yeah, there's like weird implications with that where they're like, yeah, he like sacrifices these ingredients that he's killed to something, and he gets this like power. But yeah, it's not particularly violent towards like people, like quote unquote people in the game.
right. It does imply like the history of this world was at one point incredibly violent, right?
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
like like blood rages, there's like a whole dark dimension.
Hmm.
The main antagonist of the game like dabbled in the dark arts for cooking. It, it's
Yeah.
it's it's a weird story when you start like digging into it, but because I think it all just keeps coming back to cooking, it grounds the game in like this very, I guess, universal concept. Because like, I don't know, it seems kind of arbitrary, right, to have cooking as like that fundamental thing, but like everyone's familiar with cooking. Like that's something everyone can relate to, and everyone, I think, to some degree finds a little comforting, like the thought of like cooking something that they're comfortable with. So I don't know. I think the entire concept of the game being put on that one situation really chills out the experience.
Hmm.
I don't really know where I'm going with this. I'm just kind of spitballing ideas.
Yeah, I think it's that. I think it's like it's not tense in the way that a lot of other games are, in regards to like having to do combat or having to worry about, like you were saying, like the consequences, or like you're not out here, like you are kind of saving the world, but that's not the point at the beginning. Like they introduce the poison stuff pretty early on, but it's mostly them just being like, oh yeah, like there's, I don't know, stuff's kind of weird with the monsters, but like if you cook stuff right, like it'll be fine and people won't get sick. And it doesn't really escalate in a way that feels like, pressury, I guess. Like it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel like there's that overhang of like, you gotta do all this hardcore stuff to save everybody. It's just kind of like, nah, like it's just this one girl trying to pursue her dream. And I think it helps that Mina is like very likable.
Gosh, she is. She really
She's
is.
not, because she's still like very positive, but not in like an overly saccharine kind of way.
Hmm.
And she's really relatable. Like she gets a lot of shit for sleeping all the time.
Hell
Um
yeah.
and like just being like kind of a mess. But she's still just like genuinely like a kind person who's very passionate about stuff, which I think is nice for a video game protagonist. And the other characters too are all just like nice generally. Like there are some mean ones who are kind of jerks, but even that, it's just like they're just kind of jerks. Like
Right.
like they're not like mustache twisting or anything. I mean, the bad guy kind of ends up being, but you don't even see him until like the last act. So
Right. Like, yeah, even the quote unquote bad characters are really just either they're like misunderstood or they're just kind of mean because there's like some understandable motivation behind that meanness. Like, oh, they failed a previous year or something like that, you know? Or they have like a
yeah,
family legacy to uphold or stuff like that.
yeah, or like and like I like it too because it's like yeah, sometimes people are just kind of jerks, and
Yeah,
that's fine. Like doesn't make them evil. They're just kind of jerks.
right, exactly. Um yeah, and I think the character design goes a long way towards also making everything very pleasant because everyone's very interesting to look at. Like even the minor
Hmm.
characters, even the characters that don't necessarily have a ton of interaction are all really interesting and you can tell from their design that they have like different stories going on, right? And
Yeah,
it's just clearly a lot of thought went into this world beyond like what what we see in the game. Like there's a reason everything looks the way it does.
yeah, and I think it's nice too because the game is like it is technically a fantasy setting. But they do interesting stuff with like what you would consider to be like the typical fantasy like races or whatever. Um, and it's funny too because if you play the multiplayer part, the or not the multiplayer, but the like competitive mode, there's when you pick your character, it says like what their class is, which is not relevant like in the slightest in the game.
No.
And really only matters as far as like, do you want someone who's tiny and fast or someone who's heavy and strong? But like Mina is a rogue apparently. um but you like don't have to like think about that, or it's like a funny weird little detail. But yeah, all of the like quote unquote fantasy races like still look different than what you would expect and are done in like this like the really cool art style that feels very new and like fresh.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's I guess one way to say it I guess is it oozes character. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just again like aggressively pleasant. Like and maybe that sounds bad. I don't think it is, but you know, sometimes you need something that's just gonna like shake you awake, but in a nice way, and that's kind of what I feel like this game does.
Yeah, well, and I feel like it's nice because like it is aggressively pleasant, but I feel not in a way that like I don't know. It's like it's not in your face in like, or it doesn't feel like that's what it's trying to be. It just is. Like it doesn't feel like it's trying to say like we're a game about positivity and we're gonna make you feel good and you're gonna like it. It's
Yeah,
like, nah, this is just dope. Like this is just a really nice time. It's just really nice throughout. Like so you're just gonna have a good time while you're here.
yeah. Like, hey, you're gonna go into a cooking battle against a girl who has a weird sentient teapot automaton to help her,
Yeah.
and you're just gonna have to use your moon magic to hunt the right kinds of monsters.
Yeah, gotta upgrade those taste gems. That's how you do it.
Who is your favorite, like, minor character?
Definitely Thorn, who is the mistress of the hunting lodge.
Yup.
She's perfect in every way because she's just the worst.
But also the best.
She's just a gay disaster, and I love her.
I want to be her friend so badly.
Yeah, she's just so good. I was so shocked when I was playing it the first time and I met her and I was like, this character is real. Like this character is in a game that I am playing currently. What? Like what?
I think one of the few criticisms, and it's not even really a criticisms, a criticisms. Geez, gosh. I would love if this game had dating mechanics in it.
Yeah.
I would love that so much. And I want that in a sequel because they have to make a sequel to this. Like it just has to happen. Just because like I loved the battling, but I really loved interacting with the characters, and I just wish that there were more ways to interact and like deepen those relationships.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I definitely like there's part of me that would just love that would just like go absolutely wild if that was the case. But I also kind of like the fact that like Mina I feel like it reflects like Mina's just really like out here trying to like hustle and get into the brigade, and like I don't know, I feel like it's reflective of her character, I guess, for me.
For sure.
Like, yeah, like she's friendly and sweet, so she forms these close relationships and whatever, but like ultimately like she's still trying to get into the battleship brigade, and other than that, like she's not really doing much else. And I'm like, all right, fair enough. I respect your hustle.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be Mina being like the protagonist of like a dating sim type game based on Battle Chef World, I guess. I wish I knew what it was called so I could call it its actual name.
Oh, what is the country called? I should know this. I can't remember. It's some fantasy stuff. It sounds very fantasy, but I don't remember what it is off the top of my head right now.
But I feel like the team would be able to make, like, if they made a sequel, like, maybe Mina is part of the supporting cast or whatever, but, like, if they made this game with the same mechanics and dating, like, sim elements, I would buy that instantaneously. Day one. Take my money.
Yeah, it would definitely be very fun. I think they could do a really good job with that.
Yeah, and also I think one of the things that I would have liked more, and personally I don't think this is really a huge, like, again, not complaints, it's just I played the game and I wanted more of it, so this is just me like, yeah, this is my wish list, I guess, for more Battle Chef Brigade. I wanted to know more about like the world and its history, because we get like little glimpses of it through all of the side characters, but like there's some huge implications and stuff that I really wanted to know more about, and like the secret immortal chef, right? Or the there's like a weird troupe of actors at one point. Like I just wanted to see more of what's going on, I guess, you know?
Yeah, I definitely like that they didn't feel the need to get like too into the world building stuff, but I think what they did is really nice because it does exactly what you're saying, of like they show enough to make the world feel like real and inhabited, and to make you want to know more of the lore stuff than what they give you. I don't know how it would have actually. I like the tightness of the story, I guess. But yeah, I think that just shows like what a good job they did of being able to create this world that is interesting and feels alive and has implications, and
has all these different fleshed out cultures. Like the orc culture has its own thing going on, being matriarchal and whatnot. Yeah. So speaking of how tight the story is, like I would very much agree that the story is very tight until the second to last chapter, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure that there's like everything's going along, and then it diverges onto a seemingly unrelated story beat that occurred off screen during the previous chapter. And
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to kind of know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think I still like it. I still enjoy it. But yeah, I do think it is kind of where the pacing gets wonky. And they tie it back decently, I think. But it does kind of just take a random left turn for a minute there. And the boss fight that you have to do during that is also bad. So,
Yeah, so I guess for people listening who may or may not have played Battle Chef Brigade, basically there is a plot point where the supporting character Thrash, his wife becomes gravely ill with a heart condition, and that seems to get resolved off screen in chapter 4, I think.
mhm.
But then the next chapter, like, goes back in time and lets you play as Thrash, which is really cool. And I have a feeling that that's kind of why this segment exists in the first place, is to kind of
Yeah.
like showcase different cooking mechanics, different hunting cooking mechanics.
Yeah, and I
Um,
mean, if I had to guess, I would assume it was also because you can play as both of them in the competitive mode. So
right.
I think they probably wanted to give you a chance, like in the main game, to like get your hands on Thrash a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
And like the mechanics again are really fun and interesting and like easily the highlight of the chapter, but the story gets weird with like a group of actors who have been hired to essentially play mustache twirling villains and like prevent him from getting the cure for his wife's heart condition, and it irritated me a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, it gets a little bit like weird and fetch questy in that part. Like not because you're not actually going and fetching, but you do need like three of a certain item.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to like it's weird too because like you have to kind of like wander around and like see if you can find the actor that you
Yeah.
need for a particular day. And it's also like I get it. Like I think it goes to their credit again because it's very frustrating because you can only do it like one day at a time, which is frustrating because you're like, I need to get this man's wife this cure. What do you mean I have to do just one? What do
Yeah.
you mean? But
Yeah.
that's like how Thrash is in game too, like canonically. Like he's also kind of saying that.
Yeah.
So it's nice to at least I guess have that um consistency with like where he's at and how he's feeling. Um but yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, it's just kind of out of place, especially because we started the game with Mina for like 4 chapters, and then Thrash, and then we cut back to Mina again for the end.
Hmm.
Um, so it's just kind of jarring, and like again, it was resolved off screen, so it's kind of like why, but it's not unenjoyable. It's just kind of this weird diversion, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of like character design stuff,
Hmm.
because I can't say enough good things about that for this game. I loved how unique, um, like how do I put this? A lot of games stick to like one or two body types, and
Yeah.
this game does like all body types. And
Yeah,
I
it
just I
does.
loved seeing different kinds of people on screen for a change, you know?
Yeah, it's nice because it's like a variety of fantasy like races and whatever, but then yeah, there are people of all kinds of different like body types and age and like skin tone.
Mm-hmm.
It feels very yeah, it really really contributes to the world again feeling like very inhabited and alive and not gross.
And not gross.
Not gross.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's I don't know how to phrase my thought on this. It's just really refreshing to see characters, I don't know, who are just going about their daily business, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of what we talked about earlier, where like not everything is like fate of the world stuff. Like this is just starting out with people who are going to school to learn how to be good chefs. That's it.
Yeah.
And it like that's I guess that's part of the charm, right? Because we're in this fantasy world, and for a good portion of the game, we're not fighting to save the world. And even when we are fighting to save the world, it's mostly, with cooking.
Yeah. I also like that, like being a battle chef is like obviously perceived to be a very prestigious thing and something that like a lot of people are, really about and want to do, but it's not considered like the end all be all thing. Like Mina's best friend from her town, Simon, works as like a miller's, like his dad is the miller in the town. And he's just cool with that. Like he's just like, yeah, this is my thing. I'm gonna help my dad run his business. And then I'm probably gonna run this business when I'm an adult, and like that's chill and that's cool. And like Mina wants to do her thing, that's chill too. But like it doesn't suffer from like chosen one syndrome. It's just like, yeah, like this is Mina's career goal, so she's like out here trying to do it. But like other people have different career goals, and like it's fine. And like being a battle chef is cool and interesting, but it's not, like some elite force or whatever that people are all chomping at the bit to be in.
Yeah, it's an interesting comparison to like something like Fire Emblem, Fire Emblem goes very heavy on like chosen ones and like destiny and also bloodlines and just all of these really tired tropes that aren't necessarily personally I'm tired of them, and I think that they perpetuate weird ideas about heroism, and like I don't like them in
Mm-hmm.
stories. And Battle Chef Brigade is a very pleasant and very welcome, relatively cliche free story. I mean, I guess it's cliched in the sense of like small town girl goes to the big city and like makes something of
Yeah.
herself, but like we don't get to see that very often in games, to be honest, right?
Yeah, well, I also like that it doesn't do the thing of like, oh, she goes to the big city and then it changes her, and
Right.
it's about her having to re-find herself and all. It's just like, no, like she's not going there forever. She's just going to compete, and like she does change, she does grow, but
But it's
it's
not like the
not in
city
like a.
eats her up and spits her out, you
Yeah,
know?
it's literally, yeah, it's just more like, it's really more like kind of, I don't want to say quite a coming of age, but it is like a coming into adulthood kind of story to a degree. And about like Mina's not a bad person. She's not bratty or like selfish, I don't think, but like she does have these opportunities to really like learn what failure means and like how that impacts you, and like that you can come back from it, and like learns to really appreciate that like even when she does fail, like she has a really great support system, and she has people who really love her, and things are still really good in a lot of ways. And like, you can bounce back from things, and you can learn to appreciate people in your life more, and you can be a better person even if you weren't necessarily a bad person.
Right. Yeah, I think, and this was something I was talking about on a stream earlier this week, but I like that Battle Chef Brigade, like both in the story and also like in terms of how the tournament is set up, is very much either forgiving of failure, or failure is kind of like it's not the end, right? And
Yeah.
so earlier in the week I was talking about that in relation to Dark Souls, where Dark Souls kind of takes failure and makes that into like a core mechanic, right? And Battle Chef Brigade kind of does the same thing, although, you know, if you're good at puzzle games, I guess I would recommend playing it on the harder difficulty, just because it's not super challenging on like the baseline difficulty.
Yeah.
But even so, like, you can lose 3 times. Like, I didn't lose during my playthrough.
Yeah.
But during the tournament, like, it's totally fine to fail while you're learning how to kind of play the game, and even later on, it's okay to fail one of your cooking matches.
Yeah, and I like that there's an arc with another character named Wart who like competes, and his whole thing is he loses a bunch, and he ends up getting sent home, and then there's a plot kerfuffle, and then all the people who got sent home get to come back. And they have the conversation of like him being like, well, I don't want to screw this up. This is my second chance or whatever. I mean, it's just like, just do your best, dog. Like, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But like, you're here, you know, you can try. Like, just do what you can. And two, it's nice because the whole setup of the tournament is like, if you don't get it in, or if you don't get in, you can always just try again next year.
Right, exactly. Which is kind of like real life. Like, real life, you usually don't have just one chance to do something, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can try and get into school next year. You can try and get in, you know, to a different school. Like, there are, like, I like games that basically tell you that it's okay to fail, because real life has a lot of fail states. It's hard to navigate, and so it's nice to see that kind of reflected, and that I guess to a certain degree see forgiveness reflected in a game.
Yeah, or even that it's not like it's not the end of the world,
right?
Like even if you don't like, because forgiveness is a good word, I think, but it's also just like it's kind of a lack of a reaction to a degree of like, you know, like if you fail, it's not the end of the world. You just move on and try again, and hopefully you learn something from it. And that's just, that's how life is. And I think it also contributes to what we've been talking about, where it doesn't feel like there's such huge consequence. Like, it's not Mina working against a clock or something. I mean, she's only 21 canonically in the game, so like if the game was different and she did fail, like she'd have another shot.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that that's why Mina is such a good and relatable character to an extent, because she's the one who doesn't give up, right? In the face of those failures. Like, she keeps trying. Like, she's gonna even if it doesn't necessarily work out that first time, like, yeah, she gets sad, but then she doesn't give up, like, later on when they're all called back, right?
Yeah, I also really liked when Mina does get sent home and she's, like, just being sad in her bed. I really, really liked that hers, like, the family dynamics there, where her sister is, like, her mom is being like, you need to get up, like, you need to get your shit together, like, you need to stop it. And her sister's just like, it's implied that her sister has been keeping her mom off of her back for at least a week or two. And she's just like, hey, like, just let her be sad for a little while. Like, it's okay. Like, just let her get it out of her system. She'll be fine. But I also like the fact that her mom was like, no, like, sometimes you gotta just, like, get up and deal with your shit and start moving on. Like, it'll be fine. And I think those family dynamics are nice. They don't feel, like, toxic or, like, insensitive. It's a good balance of showing, again, that she just has a really nice, good support system.
Yeah, and different. I love the characterization in this game, because even in that small, like, scenario that we're discussing, like, there are clearly different ideologies at play, like different, well, her mom thinks she should have these priorities and her sister's like, no, it's okay. But, like, you know, kind of navigating that dynamic makes the scene more interesting rather than just like, I guess just having like the mom in the picture, like having this fuller family dynamic really, like, I guess teaches us more about Mina by extension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really love I really really love Mina's family. Like I think one, it's super cool that like Mina's mom tried to get into the brigade, um, but it's not like a family legacy story. Because I think sometimes those can be a lot. Whereas this is like, yeah, Mina's mom decided to try to be in the brigade and then for whatever reason didn't get in, and then she moved on with her life and opened a restaurant and like is still having a nice life. But like, and it's not about Mina trying to like follow in her footsteps or whatever. It's just her also having a shared interest with her mom, which is interesting. And like, I think from the little that we do see, like you see a lot of their like how their relationships function and like who is kind of like what role in their family and stuff. And it's just really nice.
Yeah. Do you remember what her dad does? Does he just help around the restaurant? Because I never saw him like cooking.
Yeah, I think he's like more on the business side of it, but they don't
Okay.
get too deep into that, I don't think. I know he goes to the market to like buy the ingredients and stuff, so
Yeah. Maybe he's like the trader of the
yeah, I
family.
think he's like the business manager, maybe.
Okay. um yeah, I just loved I loved like the small town stuff, and then they go off to the big city. I I don't really have much to complain about in terms of like any of this stuff. Like, it's so good, and I'm not really sure like where Trinket games came from. I know that some of them came from a place called Wide Load Games, which I had never heard of. Um, but
Yeah, I'd never like I totally slept on it. Like I didn't know about the Kickstarter. I'd never heard of Trinket. I only found out about the game in general because I heard the folks on Waypoint Radio talking about it during their like Game of the Year stuff. Um, but yeah, it definitely was like very under my radar. So
yeah, so what was your experience like finding this game? What sold you on it, right?
do you ever have a come to Jesus moment, Jack? Because that's what it felt like. Um, I had heard about it and I was like, I don't know, match 3 game, that doesn't sound very fun, like meh, whatever. And then it was like February of 2018, I think. And I was just like going through, I was physically sick, and then I was also going through a depressive episode. And I was like, I just want to like play something. I don't know, whatever. And then I was like, I kind of want to play something like kind of mindless, whatever. And then I thought about Battleship Brigade, and I was like, well, maybe the match 3 would be okay because I don't really want to play something super involved or whatever. So I downloaded it and was playing it, and then I was just like, this is so nice. And my heart just feels so much better, and I'm just happier playing this game than I've been in a while.
Your crops are watered and blooming, your heart is full.
I was like, my skin has cleared, like it was really like, which I feel like sounds dramatic, but it was just like, it really just came at like a point in my life where I really needed it, and like I was just like, wow, like this is incredible. And then the nice thing is it has continued to feel that way to me, even with or without like, even though I've played it a million times now and I like am at varying degrees of like mental healthiness. It just it always feels like good and solid and charming and happy.
So have you gotten a lot into the competitive side of
I love the competitive side.
Yeah?
I love it.
So is there kind of like a thriving competitive community for this game?
I wish it was more thriving. There are definitely people who are like very, very invested in it, and they know like the RNG, they know the drops. for ingredients and stuff like that. They have like strats for the different equipment that you can use. Because part of it too that we haven't really talked about as much is that they, aside from the match 3, there's also like all kinds of different kitchen equipment that you can get that helps.
We should probably get into that.
Yeah, it's a really like technically sound game, I feel like, just because it's pretty simple, but you'll have like different ovens that'll upgrade different colored gems, or they'll fix broken gems, or they'll replicate gems, and then you have pans that'll be like, oh, this one is a match 4, or this one, like if you get a match 3, the more like combos you get, the more little squares will become upgrade squares, and
or you can match 2 in this pan.
Yeah, and then there's also like other ingredients that you can use, like different sauces that'll change the colors of the gems, or like different there's all kinds of like cookbooks that you can get where if you cook in a certain way you'll get a bonus. Like you can have like, there's like a vegetarian one where if you only cook with plant monsters and not the animal ones, or like ones that give you extra bonuses if you use bone or poison or whatever. And even the bone and poison, like, which you wouldn't think would be good things to have in food, and that's like, well, they say that too. They're like, yo, don't feed the judges poison, my guy. But if you can match 3 of them, the bone will give you an extra rainbow gem that you can match with 2 of any other color, and then the poison will become an upgrade square. And so there's a lot of different like ways to play, and there's a lot of different strategies, and the folks who are super, super good at that competitive side, who are getting like 900 points on the board, are like very, very well versed in using those different things. Because the daily challenges, you don't get to pick your loadout, so it's very reliant on you understanding how everything in the game works.
And I will say that the game itself is really good at teaching you all of these mechanics and slowly rolling out. Like the game starts out very simple with you just have a normal pan to cook in, and you just have the 3 colors, and it's like a normal match 3 game, and then suddenly it's throwing poison at you, and then it's throwing these slightly different pans at you, and then you get to like cooking ovens and these skill books, and it just slowly widens its scope, and then like throws in the bones and the poison, and like it just does a really good job of basically introducing a slew of new mechanics, new items, new things that fundamentally change the gameplay in incremental bits after you like accomplish some new feat, beat the next cooking battle or something like that.
Yeah, well, and it's nice too because they introduce a lot of it through relationships, because there's like an older man who like is part of the Battleship Brigade like science division, and he and your friend Kieran like do research together, because Kieran is also very sciencey, and you just like, as part of your day, you just can help them out by, he's working on a project, and you just show up and cook stuff and help him with that, and it's all just like puzzle solving. And through that, they teach you about the poison, they teach you about the bone, they like teach you about the different kinds of equipment that you can use. And it's all nice because it's all framed through the lens of like helping Belchior out and him teaching you stuff. And then also his cats are very funny. They're all named after cheeses.
I guess we should mention like every day that before you do a cooking battle, you can basically you can help out. Was his name Melchior?
Yeah, Belchior.
Belchior. And you can hunt with Thorn, who like teaches you more about hunting the monsters and like the different techniques for that. And then you become like a line chef at I'm forgetting her name. There's a restaurant in town.
Yeah, the restaurant is called the Crescent.
I think it's Hilda.
Oh my god, it's something like that.
But it's basically emphasizing the cooking mechanics, but as fast as you can kind of get them done, which in turn helps you during the cooking battles. So like basically in between each cooking battle are these mini challenges that will make you better at the cooking battle itself. And so it just kind of like, it all works together really nicely. It has like this very fun loop to it.
Yeah, and then too, it gives you get money from all three things too, which then you can use to buy the equipment or the sauces or the recipe books or whatever.
Yeah, you can. You actually, like, as the game progresses, kind of develop your own cooking style, which is really cool. I don't think. I don't know. I would imagine each person who plays the game would eventually hit on their own preferred cooking style, because it's not like the game is like, you do this now. You know?
Yeah, and something that I've stumbled upon as I've been playing the game multiple times now is like I definitely have like a set of stuff that I like am way too heavily reliant on, and branching out of that and learning to use the other stuff and like playing around with your loadout is really, really fun, first of all, but really, really rewarding a lot of the time, because if you are like stuck on a fight and you're not sure how to get past it, because there are some fights that like you can't lose, like you have to get through them and win, and so like for those, if I'm ever stuck, it's really nice to like play around with what I'm using, and it usually helps a lot. Like it's usually like, the way to get past something instead of just bashing your head against it with the same loadout.
Right. Yeah, the mechanics are just
They're so good.
It's what kept me playing. I guess are there any other, like, if you had to get nitpicky with this game, or is there anything else you would really like pull out as like something that could be improved on?
The only other thing that ever really bothered me about the game is there's a character named War, already discussed. But he's a little bit stereotypy for my taste. He's very effeminate, and some of the way that he's depicted I just don't love. I don't think it's necessarily like bad or even like, I don't think it's like malicious or anything, but I wish they had done him a little bit differently. Especially because they did a really good job with Thorn. And so I was like, if you're gonna queer, either like have characters be queer or code them that way, it would be nice to not have them be in like this kind of gross stereotype. Like at one point he says something along the lines of like, I'm not a cream puff, but he has like a very effeminate, over the top voice, and it's like, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah. But other than that, I don't really think there's anything else that I'd really pick at for this game.
Yeah, I would agree. I guess I would just have liked, I don't know, the natural resolution for the story seemed to be like, oh, they got into the Battle Chef Brigade. And it seemed like that, I don't know. Again, my main problem with it comes down to Chapter 5 kind of throwing off my groove.
Yeah.
And I feel, I don't know, it just felt like that chapter might have been an opportunity to do something more interesting with Mina's story, but again, like, we've already been over that. Like, we know why they did it. It makes sense.
Yeah. I do think that would have been a better use, because I guess the other thing is like there is a real mystery element of the game, and like you don't really Mina's not like involved in the solving of the mystery really. Like she helps, but like it's ultimately Ziggy who does it. And I think if you were gonna do a character switch, I think it would have been better if you'd shown Ziggy like doing the investigating that he does. And figuring that out, because I do think it would have been, because there's like kind of like a Scooby-Doo vibe to that part of the story, and I think it would have been fun to get into that a little bit more. But
yeah, I mean, because I like Thrash, I like him a lot. I like him as a character, but you're right. Like if we're talking about like characters that are actually being proactive and like moving the story forward, he's not really that character. Right?
Yeah, he and Kieran both are like very much characters that I liked, that I'm happier in the game, but like not characters I necessarily needed like more of. Whereas there is a really interesting relationship between Mina and Ziggy, where like people talk a lot of shit about Ziggy, and like he's kind of this weird, mysterious character, but Mina has a whole arc with him of like being kind of unsure of him, and then moving to kind of guarded trust. And I think leaning into that more alongside the we're trying to figure out what's going on like would have been better.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe I don't know. I would play a lot more story DLC for this game, and to be honest, that's kind of what Thrash's chapter felt like it was to me.
Yeah.
And I can totally see how a Ziggy chapter would have solved a lot of my problems with it, just because again, Thrash isn't really being the proactive one. He's just kind of like I guess like the more friendly version of like, I've got to save my wife, you know.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, and it's hard because like the stuff with his wife does technically
very tenuously
to the big bad, but like it just didn't it it felt very broad. Like this is like a pretty zoomed in story, and then all of a sudden it kind of weirdly zoomed out, but just for a minute, and it was like, I don't know, it just didn't fit well.
Well, it felt like we already got kind of like the broader sense of it from like Mina's experience at her restaurant, right?
Yeah.
So it just felt like we didn't need the addition of that story. And like that story would have been fine. Again, like I thought it was really fun. It just didn't seem like it fit within like the flow of the narrative that they were telling up to that point or after that point.
Yeah.
But you know, it's great, and that's kind of why like I want to see a sequel, because I think that there are things that they could expand on and improve, and like they already have like this incredibly solid foundation. So I'm not sure if like, do you know if there's a sequel in the works?
I'm
like,
not
there has
actually
to be, right?
I'm not actually sure. I would think so. I don't actually know how well the game sold. There is a really dedicated fan community for it. Like, I'm in a Discord server for it. And I don't go in there a ton, but like Tom from Trinket Studios is just in there, and he just like talks to folks, and their social media is very on top of it. Like every time I tweet that game, even if I don't at them, they're on top of it, and they retweet all of it. So I don't know. I certainly hope that there's a better, or not a better, but a sequel coming, because I would lose my mind. But as far as I know, I have not heard anything yet.
Okay. And you would be the first one they would tell as their number one fan.
I would hope so. I have sold at least like 5 people on this game.
I mean, you sold me on money. It. So.
I sold you. I sold Santi. I sold some people from the Uppercut Discord in it. I love that game, and I'm very aggressive about it.
Okay, so we're kind of getting towards the end of our time together, but final words / thoughts on Battle Chef Brigade. Like your case for why it's one of the best games of all time.
Because for all the reasons that we've previously stated, it's just a really, really fantastic game that's like hard to pick apart. I mean, it does have flaws and criticisms. Like we obviously just went through all of that, but it is just such a genuinely well done, pretty unique experience that like it feels so different in a landscape too of games that, you know, are all informed by each other, obviously, but a lot of just iteration and kind of doing the same thing over and over again. And this is something like really, really unique and different, and takes a lot of elements that like probably shouldn't work together. Like when I heard the original pitch of a match 3 game with visual novel elements and like hunting, I didn't want to play that. It didn't sound fun.
Yeah.
But when you play it, it's so fun. Like the gameplay is really, really fun and engaging. And the story is great, the art is great, the music is great, and it just does give you that overwhelmingly like positive, warm feeling that I just haven't gotten from any other video game. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the elements maybe that we've been talking about the entire time but haven't really like named, at least for me, this game felt very genuine. It felt like it was coming from a very genuine place, a place that meant a lot to the people who worked on it. These characters were very clearly like loved, right? And that comes through in everything from the animation to the voiceover to like the writing itself. Like it's all of these characters had so much love and effort put into them, and this is one of the cases where that comes through very clearly. And like obviously everyone who ever works on any game, I'm not gonna, well, maybe not always, but often puts a lot of effort into making that part that they work on like the best it can be. And this feels like literally everyone was trying to bring their A game. And yeah, some parts didn't necessarily work out as well as others, but like that's part of the charm. Like, you know, it's kind of one of those things where maybe imperfections bring out, you know, aren't necessarily imperfections when looked at as part of a whole, you know?
Yeah, and it's nice too because like I think even the parts that like are worthy of being criticized or whatever, like they're still not bad. Like
right.
it's not like it tanks the quality or anything. It's just like, yeah, this was maybe not as good as it could have been. Like it could maybe do better on a second try, but
that's okay.
Yeah, but I mean that's most things. And it's like honestly, if you can have your first game like knock it out of the park like this hard, like that's probably a win. That's a win.
Chalk it up as a win. Heck yeah. So, dear listeners, we will be throwing up a poll when this podcast goes up next week. And you can let us know what you think about Battle Chef Brigade. Caitlin, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me. I primarily hang out on twitter.com, so you can find my personal account there at CG and 8Rs, because my branding is a wreck. And you can also find my website where I talk about video games on various podcasts and through writing at uppercutcrit.com.
All right. And as for this podcast, you can find us on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're on really any podcasting app. We're also on SoundCloud and Libsyn and all that good stuff. You can find us on twitter.com at bestgamesperiod. And if you enjoyed what you watched or listened to, you can head over to our Patreon and toss us $1 every month. Patreon.com/bestgamesperiod. And if you do that, you get access to some exclusive episodes and help us keep making the show, which is very appreciated. Also, you can find us over on Extra Life, community.extra-life.org. If you don't know what that is, it is a fantastic charity that helps sick and injured kids all across the United States and Canada. You can learn more over at extra-life.org. And when you sign up, you can actually choose a special hospital close to you. And everything you raise will go directly to that hospital to help the sick and injured kids there. So you know where your money's going, and that's pretty neat. And I think that's it. This upcoming weekend is Extra Life Tabletop Appreciation Weekend, so be sure to check out the community site for more stuff when that rolls around. Thank you, Caitlin, for joining us today. It was super fun having you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Yeah. And we will see you all, good listeners, next time on the Flippity Dippity.
Bye.
And we're done recording, but we're still on a stream. How are you doing?
I am good. That was very fun.
Yeah. I'm glad you came out for this. dedicated your time to doing it.
I mean, I will always dedicate my time to evangelizing Battleship Brigade, so.
They need to pay you money.
They really should. I should be, I don't know, like their community manager or something. Their advertising. It's just me yelling. I don't know. I feel...
Just pay you to yell.
Trinken Studios, please. I have been an influencer for your game. Please.
Provably. I'm evidence. Like you just use me as a reference.
I have testimonials.
All right. I'm just gonna export this, and I will send you a link to where you can upload your audio.
Cool.
BCB. Okay. And I'm gonna end the stream. Thank you, stream watchers. You've been wonderful. I appreciate each and every one of you who tunes in and leaves us occasional comments. It's fun to have you. So we'll see you later.